Hi, Tasha.
Hi, Jeannie.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you remember like the exact words that Frank said to you when he proposed?
I do. Okay, not the exact words. No, I don't. I remember visually what he was doing.
That was like me
And
too. Yes, same
yeah,
thing.
visually, I remember what I was wearing, where we were, because
How you
because
felt,
I did. It
obviously.
was genuinely surprised, and I was like a hot mess.
Mhm.
So, um, and then I remember him literally getting on a knee and saying that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with us.
Mhm.
And that was that. But he did have a segue into it, and I wish I remembered. I don't even know if he would remember, but I should ask him. That's a really good question.
I don't have a clue. I truly don't. I mean, knowing my husband, it was probably just, will you marry me? He's a man, he's a man of very few words.
Hey, Jeannie,
Um,
you want
yeah,
to get married?
Brooklyn guy. But no, I really don't. I don't. I wish I did, honestly, looking back.
I know. I remember I used to have this book when Tristan was born, and it said things like, baby's first word, baby's first,
Oh, I had one that too.
like those
Yeah.
milestones. But then once
Yeah.
you finish those first couple of months, it sort of fizzled out, and there's not much I remember to it. And,
Yeah.
there's been, gosh, years and years of
Yeah,
exciting
and
things.
it's funny. I There's so many things now that I'm older and being a mother and in my life where I will ask my mom questions because I have my own kids
Oh,
and she just doesn't remember. Not everything, but a lot of things.
you
I
ask
I
me
don't know.
questions and I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to open up, by asking you that question because we do have a lovely guest today. His name is Mike Gardon. And Mike, can you tell us about a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing these days?
Sure, you bet. I'm happily married to my high school sweetheart, so we can
Love it.
definitely talk a little bit about that.
Yes,
I am what I call a dadpreneur, which is sort
that's
of
cute.
melding entrepreneur and being a dad, being a husband, and kind of making that the center focus of my work life.
Hmm.
And as part of that, I embarked on a journey over COVID where I built a product called Quotebook with my kids, my three boys. And it's really based off of a ritual and a tradition that my wife and I started way back, even before we were married, which was really just writing down the little tiny funny things that we would say to each other as we were kind of growing up and growing into our relationship. And as we had kids, we brought that tradition back out and we've just been recording these little memories ever since. And I said, doggone it, COVID has been such a downer. And I feel like we as a family have grown stronger because of this little ritual. And we wanted to just build it into a product to kind of share it, with the world. And I really envisioned it as a wedding gift, actually, to sort of instill some wisdom from what I think of myself as like this old married guy instilling wisdom to like a new couple, in terms of like just trying to savor the small moments
The
and
small
remember
moments.
those little things that escape us. Yeah.
How old are your boys, Mike?
I have three boys, so I have
Mhm.
10, 8, and 5.
Oh, so there's fairly they're little. Well, especially the 5-year-old. So
God, I
yeah.
want to keep them that way.
I know, I
They're getting
know.
It's
too big.
tough. Jeannie
It's
and
I
I have boys as well.
Oh,
Hers are
really?
little. Yeah, hers are 2 and 5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
2
I
and
have
5.
a 14-year-old about to start high school, and as I look past at these years, I feel like I'm grieving these milestones that are gone and
Yes. Yeah.
we'll never experience again.
She'll send me sometimes some videos. I'm like, please don't do this because I know this is my fate. And like, when the voice is gone and all that kind of stuff, and it's that little voice. So what you're doing is really special. Can you just elaborate a little bit on this? What exactly is Quotebook? What is it?
Sure. So it's a super simple idea and it's a
Mm-hmm.
super simple product. I'll just tell the story, I guess.
Yeah,
Back in like
perfect.
2006, living in Chicago with my then girlfriend who was in medical school and super busy, and I was starting my career and super busy, and we didn't get a chance to see each other all that much. But when we did, we would, be sitting around watching TV or whatever, and inevitably joke and make each other laugh just because we had a short amount of time together. And we just one day started writing those things down, just little quotes, sayings, stuff that just made us laugh, stuff that struck us, as really funny or memorable. And we just did that in a blue spiral bound notebook. And we just kept doing it, for years. And as it grew, so this is back in 2006. And as it kind of continued, and I found myself going to, more and more weddings, I would actually just buy like a moleskin notebook. I'm kind of like a journal junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And I would buy like a moleskin notebook, and I would write a handwritten note to the bride and groom. And I would say, hey, like, this is what we do, Stephanie and I do as a couple. And this is before kids too. And what we found is that being able, like, if we have a tough time, we have an argument or we're not seeing eye to eye or whatever, and we go back and actually just reread through some of that stuff, it brings us closer together. There's this magic moment of, what are we arguing about?
Yeah.
Let's just
sure.
laugh and brush this under the table. So that was our thing. And then again, like with the kids, we started doing the same thing in that, like, if we're getting stressed out or upset with each other, we would just open it up like before bedtime and read some funny things that the little brother said, right? And we inevitably kind of go to bed laughing, or at least in a little bit better,
a lighter mood.
And so it was something that I was just always, I've been an entrepreneur. I have a day job. I run a company, a remote company. But I was like, this is a way. I put this off long enough. I never thought of it as like kind of a big enough idea. And then I said, like, over COVID, I was like, well, I just like this. And I just need to do it because I sort of like led with, the feeling and the emotion of it. And I'm using it as a way to teach my kids about investment and entrepreneurship and how you build a product and those types of things. And I'm just giving them away to people that I meet. I host a podcast. I give them away to guests and people as a way to just sort of spread the love and joy. And people really respond to it. And my vision for it always started as a wedding gift, as a sidecar kind of wedding gift, because I think that's just such a important moment in a relationship. Most people getting married are starting as just the two of them, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they're going to build a family in the future, and maybe not, but at least they need to, life's just full of little tiny memories, and most of them get forgotten, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so the process of kind of writing those things down, just for us at least, draws us back. Like, I can just feel that moment that was said. I can picture it, and it's just sort of like a little time capsule. And to me, like, that's the most important stuff in life. It's not the the cookware that you get at a wedding. It's something that you can use, and I really can't wait for the day that I can open our family's quote up and like talk to my grandkids about what their dad said when they were 5, 8, 10. So that's kind of the feeling behind it.
I love it because it actually supplements photos. We're living in such a time right now where I feel like what you're talking about, Mike, is just bringing a consciousness to every moment, like actually being present in the moment of what's going on. I'm always very conscious of this when I'm in public, especially if it's like a touristy place. I observe people not experiencing what they're experiencing it. They do it through social media. Yeah. So you see a lot of photo taking, you see a lot of photo perfecting. I recently went to the Museum of Ice Cream in New York, and there were a group of people that just photographed selfies over and over in every single room. And I was just thinking to myself, this is such a cool place and you're missing it. Your kids are missing it. You're not really experiencing it. You'll have those photos, but it's just a different experience. And so being able to put what you're feeling on paper is everything, because a picture can only go so far. And Jeannie and I are always doing this because we deal with a lot of brides and grooms, and they tend to lose why they're getting married in the first place. You're planning a wedding. I don't know what kind of wedding you had with your wife, but if it's a big lavish wedding, obviously that takes a lot of effort and energy and time and resources. So what happens is it's thinning out your relationship because you're taking all of your efforts and you're putting it into this big day, and you're losing why you're getting married in the first place. So
Yeah.
that's what we do is we talk a lot about, why you're, what marriage is about. And don't forget to lose this. Don't get so caught up in not having the right flowers, or, this was out of budget and you had to go with a different that. So that's it. It's being conscious in the moment is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also it struck me as being interesting too, was how the plan to really bring this to life happened during COVID for you. And when I talk to a lot of my brides and my grooms, a lot of them have postponed their wedding plans because of COVID. So they're currently, they're having a wedding, in the upcoming year when they should have had it a year or two ago. And ironically though, a lot of them have scaled down their weddings in terms of guest size, and also their mentality on marriage has changed because they spent a lot of time just with one another in a room, not being able to go out in public like the rest of us. And I think, being conscious of these moments, that like a lot of people had that realization when they were sitting down with their families every single day, being able to watch movies and being able to relish in these moments and just have dinner together, and things that, because we have such a busy lives, the hustle and bustle of life don't really allow us to do as often as we'd like. So the irony of COVID is how many people have started to become aware of the things that mean the most to them, and also the things that they'd certainly like to remember.
One of the things that I think COVID definitely did is like hold, when you have something and you're going in an, the inertia of life is just going, and then all of a sudden things are taken away. You start to realize, how valuable something was, or what really matters. And I think that was just one of the byproducts of COVID, was people like me that just said, I have this idea and I'm taking it for granted, kind of, because for whatever reason I'm pursuing other things, or I think something else is important. And then I was like, well, you know what, my kids are getting older. What's important to me is to teach them how to do the things that I do. And also, frankly, like the biggest criticism I get from this is, well, I need an app because I don't have my book all the time, and I don't like my handwriting or whatever. And I just say, I don't care. Like, I want it to be a physical book because I want my kids looking at pen and paper
Mhm.
when they do this. And yeah, we can supplement with photos, and photos are fantastic, but like, you know, I want one more thing in their life that takes them sort of off a screen. And so I think everybody just sort of prioritized, differently. And yeah, you totally see that in marriage, in terms of scaling down, people eloping, like, just going to the courthouse and getting it done, instead of building some gigantic party, because that's just not what matters to them, necessarily anymore.
Yeah, and also I think too, having exact words definitely changes the context of your memory. Also, it's a little
Hmm.
bit different when you actually can reflect on
Great point,
what
Jeannie.
was said,
Yes.
because we don't really forget how we feel. Oh my God, I'm quoting Maya Angelou. But but I really do think that it's a bit of a different experience, and it takes you into different realms of your memory when you can actually remember the words.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the exact words, yeah.
I actually did this to my husband the other night. We had a moment where
Oh yes.
yeah, it was a
Mhm.
moment that really bothered me, and I could tell it wasn't bothering him. So I was stewing over it. And I was like, how do I bring this up to him and let him see eye to eye without it being a fight? I just want him to see things from my perspective. So what I did was I wrote it down in a text, and I said, I want you to view the last 10 minutes as a script, because he's a writer. So husband says this and this, wife says da da da, husband says this, and I went through the entire scenario. And I said, if you were writing this and this were a script, you would say, wow, that husband's a really big dick. Okay. Like, so I
Yeah.
was like, if you were to look at this objectively, you would say this. And he came running into my office, and he said, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. So, and he didn't see it. And I was like, how do I do this without it escalating? But it was the words, like replaying.
That was actually cool that you did it that way.
Just verbatim. And so I know I'm going in the opposite direction because this is supposed to be the meaningful moments that are that you're building and you want to reminisce about. But sometimes it's knowing exactly what you said and replaying it that allows you to see things in that way.
It's the power of words. It's interesting because I do run a remote company. So a lot of all of our communication is written. And so with my wife, it's a little bit similar to your story. Like I am really big on the exact words that are used because they can change whether you speak them versus what you write.
Mm-hmm.
And so in text and, text conversations with family and stuff, I'm always like, don't respond if you're feeling emotional in a text conversation, because like somebody's going to read the words and interpret them differently.
Yeah.
And I'm such like a literalist with the words. And I'm always like, are you sure you want to use that word to respond? Because that literal word could be taken by, a family member as hostile or whatever it might be. Right. So it is really, really interesting.
This is why emojis were born. Before emojis came out, you would write something and then it could sound so blunt and so nasty. But if you put like a little wink or a little ha 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 after it, then suddenly people know the intention of what you're, wanting to say.
Oh my God. There's LOL after everything today. Because
that's right.
Because you have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're like, otherwise then it's taken
that's
how
so
you didn't
true.
intend
That's so true.
Question for you. So you've obviously you guys have been practicing this for most of your relationship. Now you're parents, you have 3 kids. Your eldest is 10. So how are your children incorporating this in? Is your 10-year-old, does he have a quote book in his room that he'll sort of refer to? Does he, experience something and have you write it? Does he write it? How are you working this into your family?
Sure. So all the kids do have their own. We have kind of a master copy for the family. And then the kids kind of have one for anything that happens either within their room or within their friend group. Like they'll write down stuff that their friends have said and then kind of tease them about it, later or something like that. But for the most part within the family, we utilize one. And what's interesting is everybody in the family is on kind of constant alert for what's quote book worthy. And we don't have that defined, but it's kind of just this feeling where like somebody says something and you just know, and we say like, okay, that's going in the quote book. That's quote book. That's going in the quote book. And then we'll, if we're out, I have like an app on my phone where I'll just, a text app that I'll just type it in real quick or speak it.
Lock it in and then add it later.
And then transfer it. One of the things that I wanted to do design wise with the book was I wanted it to look nice, like something that you would have out on a coffee table, because it's just that reminder. One of you were talking about how you had like the baby book and, you read the first words or something and then it kind of just goes away. I didn't want something to look hokey or baby-ish. I wanted something to look nice that you could build the habit on and you could have something out. And it's kind of a conversation starter too. We have people come over and like, what is that? And then we talk about it. And there's nothing too bad in here that so they can read them. Some of it's not PG, but people can read ours because again, our family goes for funny. You could use Quotebook for anything that you want that's memorable, but we go for funny. Like everybody in our family is just thinking of the funny thing that could go in there.
The humor.
Yeah. And our youngest, our 5-year-old, he's the youngest, but he is definitely the most quoted person.
Oh, that's great. And what a wonderful gift that is that you're giving him. Will he carry that sense of humor with him through life?
Yeah. And teaching him to use his words, what words mean. That's so important for a kid.
Words, writing. And I think unexpected byproduct of this whole thing is I really think this process has helped my kids literally become funnier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you think about
skill.
the process, like if you think about the process of stand-up comedy, and if you've ever like read anything by Seinfeld or whatever, like on the process, it's like you're really becoming a writer, and it's so much about timing too. So like I'll just see I can't even explain it, but I'll just see like mannerisms in the kids or cadence in how they say something, pausing like to make it funny, and they're just like, oh, I know that's going to go in the book,
Yeah.
That's so
and I think
cute.
that's like fantastic, because one of the things that I worry about as a parent is like just mental health and like the stress of being all things to all people, like as you grow up. And people have to be able to take things lightheartedly, right? Like you have to be able to, you can't get through life without like laughing. And so I hope that that is something that this has helped them with and will continue to help them with into the future, is just letting things go, taking it with a grain of salt, being more lighthearted, being funnier, and then making somebody laugh is like the greatest joy spreader ever. So if my kids can be funny, like God bless them, I hope they're able to spread that.
Yeah, I love it. I want to read your quote book.
I know.
So
I
wait,
wanna see that.
how does this work? So how is this
Yeah.
different than like a regular journal, without giving like too much away?
Sure.
Because I'm sure there's elements of surprise. But if you can buy a journal and write down quotes, but how is
Totally.
Quotebook different?
Totally. So it's super simple. And yes, absolutely. If you don't want to buy a quote book, please go get a notebook and just do this. But
Start
we
the
just capture
practice.
4 things. We just capture 4 things. We capture the date. We capture who was saying the quote, what the quote actually is, and then any context around that
Okay.
that is meaningful for the quote
to
being
make you
said.
right.
That is literally it. Okay.
Simple. So it's not plugging,
Yeah.
it's not giving you ideas, it's letting it be completely organic.
No. Online and social and stuff like we do, we throw a bunch of quotes out there that come from my quote book, or people write them in.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of like ideas. And again, some people just don't necessarily want to capture the funny stuff. They're more sentimental, and that's totally cool. I want somebody to be able to do that, like whatever inspires them and makes them feel good. From a design standpoint, I wanted it to be like really easy, short prompts, and be able to be left out so you remember to do it. So yeah, I mean, to me, that's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
So something that we've had since, gosh, when we first started dating, is I talk in my sleep. And
yes,
but
we have some of those.
you have some of those in the quote book. So, some people talk and you kind of know like they're working something out, and you can hear them working it out. We don't know who I am when I sleep. So I actually pulled this up before today's podcast.
Natasha Fierce.
Because my husband has like a running, like we share the note. You can share a note on the iPhone, and so he can edit it and I can see as he updates it. I mean, it literally goes on and on for years. But as soon as I say something, he'll immediately, because I'm always the first to fall asleep, he'll take note of it, and then I wake up in the morning and I have like the latest quote. So I'm just going to read 2 of these for you. Sure. So just so you can get an idea.
Oh my God, this is great. Go ahead.
How did you find the end of the land when it was just down to the wind? Okay.
Beautiful. So much sense making there.
Right? And here's the other.
Oh my God.
If you shut off the skeleton treasure thing, it's not going to be accurate. See?
Yeah,
okay.
That's great.
Not related to anything that I have any sort of
that.
Oh, he has Gene. It goes on for years. It just goes on and on and on and on. So yeah, but it's so important to us. We'll go back and like sometimes over dinner, we'll just go through and we'll read them and laugh out loud. So I absolutely relate to this.
My husband, oh my God. I never documented it. I actually remembered the only thing I ever got was snoring, don't be a bitch. Snoring. As he's rolling over, don't be a bitch. Like literally, that's what I
totally. Yeah. So think like it's that process, right? Of capturing it and remembering it. That's like what I really care about, because think about how many moments just like those have probably happened that you don't remember and don't laugh at.
Right. It's like it's wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
from back.
So another thing that I've picked up from you, Mike, is because you've built almost a culture in your family for your children. So they're very conscious. They brought Quotebook into their thoughts. So as they're experiencing something, rather than from, let's photograph this for social media, this is a Quotebook experience right now. How can we grab this and put this into the Quotebook? So you have, instead of taking it onto the screens and taking this onto, social media, you've brought this like close with your family, written, like you said, handwritten, but also for your memories. Like, I think that's very cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anything that is close to home like that and close to your heart, where, like you said earlier, you have to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always success there.
Yeah. So how can we find you? How do we
Yeah.
get this?
Sure. So they're available for sale on our website, which is
Okay.
quotebookjournal.com. If anybody listening wants one, I think if you use the code podcast at checkout, you can get 15% off. They're on Etsy as well. If you search Quotebook, all one word, on Etsy, they'll be there.
Cute. I love Etsy.
And they're in some select retail locations around me, mostly where in the Midwest where I live. But
Where are you guys in the Midwest?
Yeah, where are you from, Mike?
Just outside of Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Are you shocked
Right.
with this accent? Am I like shocking you with my accent?
I can pick it up, but it's not a shock. I spent a bunch of time in Chicago. I've spent some time in New York as well.
Okay.
So yeah, but Madison is home and where we're centrally located. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So Quotebook on Etsy, quotebookjournal.com, and use the coupon code podcast, right? For 15% off. And they're what, $40, right?
Yep.
They're so cute. I'm looking at them now.
Yeah.
How cute is this?
I think we have on there, like, if you buy 4, there's an additional percentage off, because a lot of people buy them as like, oh, this is great, and they buy them as gifts. I've got.
It's a really meaningful gift.
Like
That's
so.
it. I can
So
only
sweet.
imagine if we receive this for our wedding, how that I would
Yes. How cute is that? I would
absolutely cherish that. So great. Perfect.
Yeah, we've just gotten, like, from the bride and grooms, like, that was the most thoughtful gift we got, like, all day, which I'm proud of. If that's the most that we do, like, that's enough, because I think that's just that's great. So
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And anything else you want to tell our listeners?
I could certainly give you some quotes, but I don't know.
Oh my God, that's what we have to do. If you can,
right.
just
Let's
come
wrap it up with your favorite one of the month.
All right. I'm going to give you 2. The first one that kicked off the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Was just me and my wife sitting on the couch. We're eating cheese balls. And she says, "Man, I love to suck cheese balls." And it wasn't, she wasn't trying to be funny, but that was the very first one that kicked off the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep. And then let me just really quickly check here.
I love that.
I got to find a good.
Now, how old were you guys? Because you said you were high school sweethearts.
Yeah. So
do you put the date? I forgot what one of the 4 was. Do you put like the date that?
Yeah. So that was 2006.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was like January 22nd, 2006.
Great.
As we were enduring a frigid, cold Chicago winter, and we finally had like a couple of days off. All right. Well, one that was just recently, my 5-year-old, he was mad at me, and he runs to his mama and he said, "Mama, you need to get a new husband."
Oh my God.
Because he was just mad at me.
Yeah. You're disposable.
That's right.
Oh,
Sounds about right for a 5-year-old.
And did you write what her response was?
I'm sure she laughed, and I'm sure she said yes.
The plot thickens.
Yeah. I'm going to find one more that I had here, just as an example of how we use it to we use comedy to sort of make things lighthearted. Okay, here it is. My 8-year-old was again mad at me, or frustrated with the world, and he whispers under his breath, "I hate you." And I say to him, I go, "Did you just say achoo? God bless you." And he couldn't contain himself. Like, he was mad, and then as soon as I said that, he was rolling on the floor laughing.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of the power of comedy, and that's how we use it a little bit to flip the narrative, flip the script, flip how we're feeling. So
yeah, very cool.
That's in there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank
I'm glad.
you. This is so wonderful. Thank you for all everything you're doing is just so lovely.
Yeah.
Well, you bet. Thanks for having me. I can't believe I'm on a marriage and engagement podcast.
We never know where we'll find ourselves, but words mean a lot, especially when it comes to that stage of your life. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks
that's
so
right.
much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this episode of So You're Engaged, Now What? If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. It really helps.
If you'd like to reach out with any questions or suggestions, please email our team at podcast@livepicturestudios.com. This podcast is hosted by Jeannie Singari and Natasha Sherritt-Lacari.
It's produced by Jeannie, Natasha, Nicole Palmetti, and Christiana Krimmel. It's been edited by Crizel Peniquito and Nicole Palmetti.
Artwork has been created by Joe Nunez, and music has been supplied by Ian Post and Artlist.io. And this podcast is brought to you by K-Vibe Studios.
Until next time, bye and happy planning.